Here's what happened. Just like maybe a few days back, Adriana and I were talking about this, where it can feel, even though you're getting your daily tasks done, why like it doesn't feel like a win at the end of the day. That can come up. And I remember we were talking back and forth about it, and we're both people that are in this building phase of the business. It's not like one of us figured it all out for this business, and we have exactly what we want with it, and for the quality of life, it's exactly what we're looking for. We're still growing, we're still developing, we're still moving forward and making progress in what that actually looks like and creating that. And having two people do that at the same time, it can be absolutely a lot. Like it can be fucking exhausting at times. And it can be also so rewarding. I think about how proud I am of Adriana for putting in this work in her business, which she's focused on luxury travel for couples with their honeymoons, wanting to create incredible experiences for their trips in places like Italy, France, and then Greece. And I'm so fucking proud of her to like see her put in the work of the amount of care that she has for the people, for the clients that she's working with, for understanding the different locations and bringing in an authentic experience for these couples when they go to these locations. It's fucking awesome to witness her in the work that she's doing, the magic she's creating. And then it's at times realizing that it's a grind. Like when you're putting in the reps and putting in the work, it does feel at moments like it's not a win anymore. And I'm not perfect with this. Adriana's not perfect with this. We get off track. You're not going to be perfect with this. But what I want to get into is sharing with you when it doesn't feel, when finishing the daily task doesn't feel like a win anymore, why that is for you, and then how you can change that for yourself so that you aren't putting all these self-imposing limits of what you're capable of, because the world already does so much of that. So you might as well do the best that you can to support yourself as you're navigating this world and this life as you build the business. This is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. And if you haven't done it yet, you can subscribe and follow the show for the latest episodes. I know you've dealt with a lot of the shit and the challenges leading up to this moment. You probably got a lot of the shit and challenges afterwards. So it's time to get present. Going to do a deep inhale through the nose, exhale it out through the mouth, get settled in the space. Give this time to you, because I know you care about so many other people. You got a lot going on for responsibilities. And it's in those moments where it can be so easy to forget about yourself. And I get you on that. You're not alone in that, but this is a moment for you. So deep inhale through the nose, out through the mouth. You can stretch it out too if you want. Here we go. And release. Oh, there you go. All right. Oh, that feels good. Okay, 2 commitments for you before jumping into it. First commitment is to continue to grow this show. So I'm really grateful. It's now coming up on 9 months since the launch of the show. It wouldn't be possible for the growth without your support in this. So thank you. The second commitment I have for you is to be honest with you, to actually share with you what it takes to make burnout extinct based off my own personal experiences, the insights I'm gathering from others, and then the conversations I'm having. So with honesty, so many moments leading up to my burnout back in 2018, with that social media conference I founded where 500 people came together, I lied to the team that was with me. I lied to the community. I lied to myself. And so there's so much pressure that can build in the lying, and that there was no way for me to release it. And so that was absolutely one of the main reasons that I went and hit my burnout, was the amount of lying that I was doing. And so with you in this show, and my commitment is to be honest and to set those expectations, not like take away the fluff, take away the bullshit, and get to the heart of what it takes for you to make burnout extinct, and to remind you it absolutely is fucking possible for you to make burnout extinct. No matter what you hear out there, I'm telling you that you have the capabilities to listen to the signals from your body, recognize what the message is for the changes that need to be made, if that's in your behavior and your habits, and then make those changes. Because your body's constantly in communication with you. It's just whether or not we choose to listen to it. So let's get into it. Let's dive in for today. What I want to talk about is, why doesn't finishing the daily tasks feel like a win anymore? That thought that comes up, the tornado thoughts. And I've talked about these tornado thoughts where it can just take you down these really crazy rabbit holes, waste a lot of time. By the end of it, you're exhausted, and then you feel like you made no progress and you stay stuck and you get into these loops. One of my biggest disappointments in my life was lying early on when it came to that social media conference I founded back. The event happened back in 2018. And it was the amount of lying I did early on about the attendee numbers for it. So it ended up being 500 people that came together, but the goal at the beginning was to have 3,000 people come in. And that's what helped to propel, having speakers come in at the beginning to get on board with this. But then it got to a point where those tickets weren't happening. Like the people weren't buying the tickets. Like those numbers were not happening. And so I had a decision to make of, okay, well, do I lie about how many people have come in and have already bought a ticket, or do I not? And like just keep trying to figure out how the hell this thing's going to work, because the date kept getting closer and closer and closer, and the goal was not even close to being hit. And that's where, for me, it was one of my biggest disappointments, was leaning into the fear of, oh shit, there's no way like we're gonna hit these goals if I don't do something to move to move it forward and get excitement around it. And that is where I said, hey, there's 2,000 people that have bought the tickets. And what ended up happening was then there's that rush of excitement, and people were like, oh my gosh, it's happening. The community was getting excited. More and more people were coming in. And then that's what created the snowball effect of getting more awareness about the event out there. But inside, what I knew was that I had lied. And so then pressure was building in my body. And for you, I think about it as these decisions. Like that for me was one of the decisions I had to make. And one of the decisions where I realized it was not the right thing. And so for you, it's asking yourself, usually when this comes up of why doesn't finishing the daily tasks feel like a win anymore, usually what I have realized in my own experience, it's because I'm putting off making a decision that is scary for me and I'm avoiding making right now to move to this new level of success. And what I have going back to that decision I made for the lying, is that lying to others hurt, but it can hurt me. But what it was doing for myself, and I knew it was something that I knew wasn't right, it was hurting me the most. That's what really was going on. And so it's easy to lie to yourself and say that you can handle this, or that I'm not scared, or I have it all figured out. But going back to that decision, it's like, what's the decision that you aren't facing right now and that you might be lying to yourself about? Because we like to put a lot of our attention and our energy towards the small problems and then ignore and avoid the big problems. And this is the moment for you recognizing what the hell is going on. And what it is it could be, for your body, ignoring the big problem, the decision that you can make that you are avoiding, that is going to help move you to a new level of success. And for me, looking back on that decision, I was disappointed in making the wrong choice, something that I knew was wrong, making that decision. And so for you, when you focus on the decision that you have to make, lean into what is right, even if it's scarier, even if it, like, you feel even more overwhelmed by it. Because when you can go into what you know is right for yourself and lean into that, through all this chaotic world that's around us and all the shit and craziness that's out there, to have that level of trust with yourself, because that's what it is when you know it's the right thing to do and then you honor that commitment, you are building the trust with your body. That is such an important gift to have, so that you don't then go through life feeling like you're tugged in multiple different directions, but you're able to like just carry yourself in a whole new, like it feels like a whole new level. And then that can make it a lot faster and easier to then move towards these new levels of success as you put in more repetitions for honoring those type of commitments and making those type of decisions. And I can tell you that from my own personal experience. I wasted so much time through the lying. And specifically this one of lying about the attendees. I then had to make up whole other stories and reasons for why the numbers weren't the way they were. And then that created more pressure in my body, more overwhelm in my body, and just continued to lead me towards a one-way ticket to hitting burnout. And so this is going to be one of your first steps is what is that decision that you have been avoiding, and reflecting on that. You may not even realize that that's what's causing you this, but it's noticing if that is making a difference for you right now. And noticing if you do have a decision that you've been putting off, is that coming back into your awareness right now? And even what you can do is get settled in the space. We'll do another deep inhale through the nose, out through the mouth. Here we go. And release. Getting settled back in. And then it goes back to like, why, like it can be so easy to lie to ourselves. And it goes back to maybe there isn't that decision there. Like, dude, what the hell are you trying to tell me? I have this decision I've been putting off. Like, fuck you. Like that, that could be coming through for you. Or you might be like, this is ridiculous. And I don't want to come from the place of pushing and trying to force something that isn't there for you. But I do want to create the space for you to recognize that this could be a possibility for why it doesn't fit, why finishing the daily tasks doesn't feel like a win anymore. Like that can be coming up for you potentially. And so I want to create that space and that openness here to be able to reflect on that for yourself. So many times you can move through your day from one task to the next, from one challenge to the next, one problem to the next, and deal with all this bullshit that's out there. And so this is the time to have that space to reflect of like, could this be a possibility? So you may have one or two that are coming up for you. What I want to get into now are 3 areas of focus. The first is what could be happening with your body, recognizing why doesn't finishing the daily task feel like a win anymore? Like why that tornado thought could be there. Then I want to get into the habits you can try to help you to feel like it's a win for the day. And then the techniques to focus on that can help you to sustain the changes in the long term and increase your capacity for more. Because I saw a video recently. I think it was from Mel Robbins talking about this one decision that can change everything. And I really resonate with that idea of a one decision can change everything. It can, but then on the other side of it, what doesn't get talked about as much is the capacity for you and your body to handle that change. Because you can make the decision, but then it can be hard to sustain that change. And that's where you can then get back off track with your habits, reverse back on the decision that you had made. And then you can stay stuck in this loop because the body, it was too much growth too fast for the body. And so then you think there's something wrong with you. And then you never go back to trying to explore that decision again or move in that direction of a new level of success. You might have been like, oh, that was just too much. And that's just not me. You get into the identity of it, of like, that's just not what I do. And I could have had that with the events. I could have said to myself, man, events are just not it for me. Even though I felt so alive in being able to organize and plan this and get the speakers to come in and then seeing the impact it has on the attendees, I could have ignored all of that and just been like, events aren't for me because like this didn't work out. Even though externally it was a success for the event and 500 people came together, internally I was mentally and physically exhausted and I was done. And so I could have taken it as like, there's something wrong with me of doing the events. I'm really grateful it's not, and excited to be able to do more in person. But that could be coming up too for you. And so what I want to come back to is the pressure balloon model to revisit this for you. And so it's imagining that with your nervous system is constantly looking for perceived threats out there. It goes back to perceived threats can then create pressure in the body, which is the signal that then creates the stress response, fight or flight, freeze, fawn. And so for these perceived threats out there, you could be thinking a threat is like an upcoming project that you got to get done in the business. Maybe it's the website that you got to build out, or it could be having to turn on your phone, turn on the video and record yourself sharing your message and then pushing that out online. It could be getting in front of a group of people and sharing the passion that you have for this mission, for the business, and getting people excited to get on board. But that could feel like a perceived threat because of all the fears. The fear of people judging you, the fear of what other people think, the fear of, are you worthy of these opportunities that are coming your way? And so then what will happen, and I can imagine it, is that all these perceived threats that your body looks for to help you to stay safe, you can imagine it like a pressure balloon in the body, where a little pressure balloon fills up with stress, and just all of these are filling up, and you can fill up hundreds of these throughout your day. Those can come up with the different tasks, those little things that create friction in your moments, in the day through the moments. And then these one decisions that you've been putting off because of, let's say, the fear of judgment of other people or your family, these are actually these big balloons that have been filling up with air, right? And these intense pressure. And so what's happening is that um, the focus for you is to make sure you're popping these balloons as best you can, popping these balloons so that you increase capacity, so you can handle more challenges and problems that come your way, and so that ultimately you don't head for a one-way ticket to hitting burnout, because the body can handle a certain amount of these balloons. It's different for everyone, is how you can think about it, and imagine it. You have certain, it's not so much about the number, but it's just like, have you been popping these balloons and releasing the stress out? And one of those ways to be able to do that is to make that decision, and then move forward and sustain the changes that are happening. And what can happen is, if you haven't taken the time to actually pop those balloons, is then you can feel for what the body can feel is not feeling satisfied at the end of the day, because you're in this fight mode of like, you need to do more. You need to continue to push harder. You need to get things done and completed. You got to keep driving and striving for more. If that's in a revenue goal, if that is the growth of the business, if that is the amount of people that you could serve, like, you get into this, I need to do more, do more, do more, do more. And I think that's a beautiful gift, like, to be able to do more, especially where there can be so much in this society of victim mindset and like, why me, I'm the center of the universe. And I come from that place of thinking that was me, of why aren't people helping me out, taking care of me? Well, it's because I haven't reached out to people. I haven't told people what I'm doing. I haven't been asking for help. I noticed that in my own life. And so that's a beautiful gift that you have, of wanting the more, wanting to get it done and push and do and make progress. But the issue can be is that when it doesn't feel like a win anymore, then you can start to feel really exhausted by constantly being in that fight mode. Like, that can be really exhausting for the body. And then you can get to the point where you are moving towards a one-way ticket to hitting burnout if you have no moments of recovery for the body. And so that is what could be happening for you, is that you just don't feel satisfied in your day. And it's asking yourself that right now. Do you feel satisfied at the end of the day, even though you got all your daily tasks done? Or is it that drive to want to do more? And you can see that online. That messaging has been out there online. And you can even hear that in conversations like, oh, if you want to continue to build a business and make shit happen, you can't be satisfied with it. You can't be satisfied. You just got to keep going. But I look at it as quality of life and what I want as I'm building the business. And I don't want to be miserable all the time as I'm building this business. I don't want to be constantly in achiever mode and waiting to enjoy life until it never happens, and then I die. And so it's being able, I think a mastery skill is to hold both in your life, where you can feel satisfied at the end of the day. And then you have this desire to want to do more, to explore more for your potential, because we have this unlimited amount of potential within us that we can tap into. But so many times we choose to settle. And that's something I don't want for you, is to settle. And so when you have to be able to come back into feeling satisfied in your day, I got a habit for you that I'm going to share with you. But I then also want to help you to remind yourself that it's having these moments to connect back to the body too. It's remembering to come back into the present moment, that you're in your consciousness of the present moment, because there can be a lot of future thinking of worry when you're in the fight mode, of worry what is going to happen next. And then you aren't able to then close out these days of feeling satisfied and enjoying the effort you put in, and then reset and get ready for tomorrow. So it's not like you are going to stop with the momentum that you have. It's being able to separate your days so that you can close out a day, and then you realize this thing, back to sports, like the score is 0-0 again tomorrow, and then you just restart. And that is really an important change that can happen to help you, so you don't feel so exhausted. You then don't feel like you're just on this like out of, like you're just going through the motions of life and feeling like your soul is slowly dying away and headed towards a one-way ticket to hitting burnout. And the quote that I really like, this was from the last conversation from Mike Schmidt that really hits home on this. He's a nutrition coach. Is him saying that sometimes we don't actually know how bad we feel until we start feeling good. And so, simply put, like something you can even think about for a way to come back into the present moment here is actually even wiggling your toes. Like, how many times have you wiggled your toes throughout the day? That's a habit that you can start focusing on, is noticing parts of your body that you've ignored and then you just don't realize they're there. And so, like, wiggling your toes just in between work tasks is a moment for you to feel centered again. You can come back into being present, and then from there you can have clarity for the action to take moving forward, next strategy to implement for the tasks that you're about to face or the challenge that's about to come your way. But you just doing something for like a few seconds. You can even do it right now. I'm looking down my toes here and I'm just wiggling them around, and that helps me to get back to being present with you in this conversation and to be here with you. So I'm not like thinking of the other things I got to get done today for the challenges. Like, I'm about to go make lunch here soon. Like, I'm not thinking about that. I'm just here being present with you. And what that helps is for you to not build so much of these pressure balloons in your day. By just being able to come back to the present and feeling in your consciousness back here and noticing like your toes moving back and forth, then what could happen is you could notice your shoulders drop a little bit and you notice less tension up here in your shoulders. You might even notice that your legs relax a little bit more. And those are ways for the body to release then the stress out, the tension out. That can be a way. And so something as simple as that can be really helpful. The other habit I want to get into that I was thinking about for this part of habits to try to help you to feel like it's a win is celebrating the reps. This is a broken record for me, and I will not stop with this because it's so fucking important for you to remember to celebrate your reps. And it can be something that you're just not familiar with, especially if you've been constantly in this fight mode of like, I can get shit done, got to move on to the next, and I cannot enjoy these moments. What happens is then you may not have been familiar at all with celebrating. Even back when you were a kid, you may have been like, I don't like to celebrate like the wins. Like, I just got to keep going, keep getting stuff done. I got to be responsible. I got to be the one taking care of everyone else. And so celebrating the reps, this is how you can do it. It's physically celebrating through the body, because when you're producing, when you literally move for the body, you're producing then energy in the body. And when you feel energized, it then can help with clarity for the next decision you have to make, next strategy you got to implement, how to face all these other challenges that come your way. And then it can build momentum to move towards feeling like a win again in the day. And then when you feel like a winner, it's then a lot easier to show up the next day. I can tell you that personally, from personal experience. When you feel like you're winning, you feel like you're losing, it sucks. It's exhausting. It's just draining. It feels like you're going through the motions. So with celebrating, what you could do is a head nod, just like head nod like this. If you can't see me, I'm just like raising up my chin. What you could do is raise your arms up and be like, yeah, like hell yeah. How I do it is I tap both my shoulders, raise my arms up, and I go, yeah, like this. What I recommend is like, I think about this to try out for you, to give it a try, is to celebrate whatever way you feel comfortable right now. It may be just acknowledging it with your words, internal dialogue, being like, I did that. Okay, cool. And like maybe shake your head a little bit. But whatever level of comfort that doesn't feel too much of a push, try that out, because it goes back to starting small. We can start small with this habit and then build a momentum from there. That's a lot easier, I think, for sustaining it long term through my own personal experience. And that's how I got started. Like, I just raised my arm up like this. I was like, woo, like raise it up. I even looked around me to make sure like no one was around me, because I was really embarrassed to celebrate. I thought it was weird. I was like, this is, and the reason why was because I just wasn't familiar with it. That's why. And then now I get pumped to celebrate. Like, again, nobody's perfect. I have my days. But for the majority of the time, I get so excited to celebrate. It doesn't feel like going through the motions. But for you, when you're getting started, it's you. If you notice resistance that comes up, what I want to remind you is that with anything new, it can create resistance from the body because it's just not familiar. And so it can feel scary. And so when you start it off, honor the resistance and then move through the resistance. Remind yourself it's temporary and that where you start isn't going to be where you end up. And then you may get to the point where you're just like yelling, being like, fuck yeah, like, let's go. I did that. Like, that's really exciting. And I will tell you, I'm the guy that would in the past would be quiet. And now I'm not. Now I'm talking to you. So you can change. You can grow. You can make progress. And it comes back to what is that one decision that you've been putting off? And anytime you make progress towards making that decision, it's celebrating. Anytime you make progress towards releasing the stress out of the body and the tension out of the body and having these moments to connect back to the body, celebrate. Anytime you get a task done that you really wanted to get done that's going to move the business forward, celebrate. Because all of those things are signs for the body that you want more of it. And then it can be a way for the body internally to release dopamine, the internal reward. And so then you're creating that internal drive to then continue to move forward because of how exciting it can feel and like the wins that are stacking up. So that is the habit that can try to help you to feel like it's a win, because you can have hundreds of moments to create wins in your day, which is so fucking important to realize. And yes, there's small wins, but I'm reminding you that small wins lead to big wins. Like, that's how it works. And I've noticed that in my own personal experience. It's like, it's all these moments that led to these big moments in life. That's what I've realized looking back in my journey since I started my first business over a decade ago. I needed to have these smaller wins, the belief that it's possible, the belief in myself that I'm capable, the belief of these habits that I'm doing are going to improve the skills that are going to make the vision that I have for this business inevitable and a reality. You know, like all those small moments had to stack up to then the big wins. The other thing I want to share with you are now the techniques that you can focus on that can help you to sustain the changes in the long term and increase your capacity for more. So I go back to those pressure balloons that can come up in your body. The goal for you is to not avoid the pressure balloons, not avoid the stressful moments, because they're going to come up with any new level of success. You're going to have these moments of growth that happens. It goes back to the decisions that you've been putting off that has made the day not feel like a win, even though you're getting your daily tasks done. So you're going to have more of these decisions coming your way as you continue to grow. I think it's so beautiful to notice yourself on the other side of it and look back on your baseline of growth. And that is one of these techniques that you can focus on, is looking back for your own personal growth, how far you've come in different areas of success. I call it there's different styles of success. It doesn't have to be just money. It can be how you're feeling for your health and your fitness. It can be your relationships, how you're communicating. Are the thoughts that of how you want to communicate? It's going back to I think the important skill that I'm working on is what I want to say, and then what I actually say, and what I feel like I want to say. All those are aligning, and I'm able to express that. Like, that's success. Like, fuck, that's awesome. Rather than going through life wearing a mask and feeling like you're pretending. So when you can look back on the baseline, that's really helpful. Then the other one is the at least technique. Whenever you are coming back to reconnecting with the body, and how I just imagine that, because we are, we're connected, like you're not going anywhere, you're here. But what I would mean by that is sometimes you can ignore the pressure in the body and the stress in the body. You may just not realize how much you have going on, how many pressure balloons you have. And so being able to have a habit of reconnecting back to the body through activities that create movement for you, that is really helpful to then be able to sustain this for the long term so that you aren't so exhausted after making these decisions. And then you are able to help you to stop yourself going down these tornado thoughts too. So for the at least technique, what that is telling yourself at least you're going to go out for 5 minutes of walking, or at least you're going to get 5 push-ups in, or at least you're going to dance for a minute or 2 minutes to your favorite song. Whatever that at least on the other side of that at least is, what at least does for the mind, I've noticed this in my own personal experience, is that it doesn't make it such a big deal. Oh man, I got to go stop doing what I'm doing right now and go and do this. It's going to be so exhausting. It's going to be such a big thing. When you say at least and you create a minimum of very low effort required, it can make it a smaller. It can make the mind perceive it as a smaller amount of intensity for you to show up and do this thing. I'm trying to think of a better way to word that. I'm like, where am I trying to go with that? It just, it makes it seem like there's going to be less effort required. And so then it's easier to show up and do it and like move through this resistance, because with change of, something new coming into your day and interrupting the pattern, that can create resistance from the body. And so it's honoring that and then being able to move through it. And so the at least technique is really helpful to come back to that one. The other one is the push start technique. So this one is at the end of the day, before going to bed, or even in the morning, right when you wake up, being able to do an activity for the body that creates movement. And it's a low amount of effort. And so you do it for at least 10 seconds, going back to the combo of the at least technique. What this could be is it could be stretching, it could be push-ups, it could be dancing. Those are just some examples. There could be other ones that you're thinking of. But what this does for the body is that it does two things. One is that if you do it at the end of the night, you may feel really defeated at the end of the night, but if you can show up and put the reps in for this, it reminds the body that you can do things even when you don't feel like it. And then by acknowledging that you just did that for something that you didn't really feel like doing in the moment, then you can feel energized, because like you showed up, you did it, even though you didn't feel like it. And that is such a powerful gift of realization for yourself, is that you're not always going to feel like it to show up and put the reps in, but you still did it. And that's such an epic thing to take a moment to celebrate. And goes back to then you can celebrate for the body. But when you do that, it expands your confidence to realize you can handle shit that's coming your way, the challenges that are coming your way. And when you build that, you're building the resilience within yourself. And this confidence expands within yourself to realize you can handle any challenges that are going to come your way. And that is fucking epic for then how you show up for these next decisions that you have to make, for building the momentum of more wins in your day, and then being able to get back to feeling connected like you are winning the day. And when you feel like that winner, then it becomes easier to show up, and there's just this epic cycle that continues to move forward, and it helps you to open up new doorways of possibilities for your life, and continues to move faster towards who it is you want to become and the vision you set out for the business and for your own quality of life. So here you go. How I think about it too, actually, before I get into the recap, is I think about it as going back to Star Wars, like Luke Skywalker going to destroy the Death Star. Like remembering he's in that, like what looks, you have, he goes in and it's this like narrow pathway, and he's I think it's the X-Wing. X-Wing is the one he's flying, and he's flying in. He's got two other stormtroopers in the back in their aircrafts coming in, trying to destroy him. What are they called? Man, the name's slipping from me. T-fighters, I think, is the name. And so they're coming in, and like he's so focused on the mission of like, I gotta go and destroy the Death Star and fire. It's like this hole at the end that he has to fire into for the bombs. And what is happening is like he's in this stressful situation, as you can think about it. He's like in it, he's got to push through. And then there's a moment where he has Obi-Wan come back and be like, hey, relax, like focus. And what can happen is we can be so tense so much in our life and throughout, and like we're waiting for the enjoyment. And how I think about it is that moment of him relaxing and just focusing on like he's got this. That's a moment of creating enjoyment for yourself in this process of building. And then he goes, makes it happen, destroys the Death Star, this big like weapon, and then flies off into this out into the, you think about it, it's in space, so it's not really flying off into the sunset, but like he's going out. And what I come back to is like, it's important for you to have these moments to create these wins for yourself, to enjoy this journey and this process, because then what do you got for the quality of life? And it doesn't then have to stop you from wanting more and seeking out more for what's possible in your life. So to recap it for you, it's remembering what's going on with the body. You could be in this fight mode for the nervous system of how you're navigating these perceived threats in your day. And you can not, by the end of the day, not feel satisfied. And so that could be coming up for you. And that can lead, if you're feeling exhausted, and that can lead for a one-way ticket to hitting burnout. The other thing that could be coming up is then realizing, as a habit, have you been looking back at your baseline of growth? Being able to notice that to help you to recognize these small wins along the way. And then celebrating the reps, being able as a habit to celebrate. Every time you have a task that you want to get done and you've done it, celebrating it. Every time you've had a moment to come back and reconnect with the body to get in the present moment, celebrating it. Being able to acknowledge these moments where you did something that you honor this commitment that you made to yourself, being able to celebrate that. And then the two techniques that you can focus on is the at least technique and then the push start technique. And then I go back to that quote from Mike Schmidt, which was, who was in the last conversation, a nutrition coach, saying that sometimes we don't actually know how bad we felt until we start feeling good. And you can start to notice that difference for yourself as you're honoring the one decision that you've been avoiding, bringing that back into awareness, making that decision, and then realizing on the other side of this ways that you can sustain the change and increase your capacity. And goes back to that pressure balloon model, remembering that. And I want to remind you, if you haven't heard it yet today, I believe in you. You have the capabilities here to listen to the body, listen to the signals that are coming through, getting the message, and then being able to make those changes, if that's the behavior and then overall to the habits. So you move towards making burnout extinct. And I want to remind you, it absolutely is possible for you to make burnout extinct. And you got this.